There's competition everywhere. So if you're not providing the best service and the best experience, then they're just going to go elsewhere. And for our company, we have a saying, if you haven't taught your best class, you've taught your last class. Because people don't just quit. It's a systemized process of a little cut here and a little cut there. That class wasn't that good. You were rude to me when I came in. You didn't answer the phone. Like, it's little things over time that add up. And that's what it's
Hey everybody, welcome to a brand new edition of the None of Your Business podcast. And today we have a very special treat for you. And in fact, he actually doesn't know this, but this is by special request. People have reached out, listeners were like, can you get Chris on the podcast?
Oh, wow.
And we've been working on it, and as you know, and we finally have you here. What an honor.
We secured the bag.
Yes. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for joining us on the None of Your Business podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. And I appreciate that people requested me to come on.
Yeah, one of the things I do know, because as we were mentioning earlier, we have a lot of people in the martial arts studio space. Mm-hmm. And it's also, I want to dive into that because it's an interesting transition. Most of the people that get into that, they had a martial arts background. Mm-hmm. And then typically, as in most cases, they might not understand business. And so they open up their studio, and then instant struggle, and then school of hard knocks. They learn it, those that succeed, and then off they go. And I think that for that reason, a lot of people resonate with you, the people that watch our show that have succeeded, or maybe even are struggling, but they resonate with you, your content, and your sort of philosophies on life. And so I'm excited to have you share that with everyone today. But I want to begin with, how do you get started in martial arts?
So how much time do we have? I started training when I was 4 years old. Okay. So I've been doing this for 117 years now.
You look amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I make old age look good. That's my plan.
Martial arts, the reverse aging. Yeah.
So I've been doing it my whole life. I got started in it because of my father. My father is the founder and creator of our style of martial arts. He learned when he was in the Marine Corps, and he was stationed in Japan and fell in love with it over there. And he actually made his black belt at the Kodokan in Japan, which is the home of judo, which is what Red Dragon Karate is essentially based on to this day. But he fell in love with it so much, he extended his tour of duty so he could make his black belt in Japan. And he actually got promoted to black belt by the son of the founder of judo, a gentleman by the name of Rise Kano. And at that time when that happened, he was one of the first 10 Americans to ever make that happen, because for Americans in Japan at that time, they didn't really like us. You know what I mean? We had just kind of blown up their country a few years before. And so my dad had these great stories about they were doing everything in their power to get him to quit and to give up. But, my dad's from the East Coast. He's Italian and he's a Taurus. So he was stubborn as all hell. And he just never gave up and fell in love with it. And he came back to the States and continued studying different styles of martial arts. And in 1965 was when our company, Red Dragon Karate, was founded. He came back. He was a military police officer, and then he was a police officer in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Wow. But over at nights, he would teach at the rec center. And one day he told my mom, I just want to do this full time. And that was basically the catalyst of what it was. So I got a front row seat, and you were alluding to this earlier, at every mistake that you can possibly make, because my dad was one of those guys who was fantastic in the martial arts and really loved it, but didn't really know anything about business, the business side of it. And so, I grew up in the style and have been doing it my entire life, and took a lot of notes.
Where in Japan was he?
In Tokyo. Kyoto.
Okay.
Yeah.
My father was in the military, Okinawa, Japan.
All right.
And it was around probably 4 or 5, they put me into karate in Okinawa.
Wow.
So I was like, I wonder if it was related. But
that would be a small world.
So why Red Dragon? He created this thing, and then now this to this day, this is our
60th year in business this year. So we've got some fun plans for the company this year of things that we're going to do to celebrate that. Why Red Dragon? According to my dad, the story I was told is in the Oriental culture, there apparently are 5 mythical dragons, and they each have a different color and each have a different symbolism. And he chose red because I think that was his favorite color.
That's great.
I think so, but yeah.
Okay, so starting martial arts when you were 4 years old, I mean, you probably learned a lot from your father, not just from a physical standpoint, but I'm sure from life lessons, discipline, resiliency, mentality. What do you like when you think back on your life of learning? What's the number one lesson or thing that stands out to you?
As cliche as this is going to sound, it's just never giving up.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that's like, oh, everybody says that.
Yeah.
It's just really so true. And it's easy to say until something bad happens to you in your life and you want to give up. But that's part of the self-discipline that you learn in the martial arts, is to persevere and just keep pushing forward if you truly and honestly believe in something. And to flip that around on the business side, you know, people start a martial arts business. I'm going to be successful in the martial arts business. They get faced with that adversity and they don't know how to overcome it, or they let it defeat them and they don't push through when they're right at the cusp potentially of being successful.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably the number one thing I learned from him, that and really just to follow your dreams.
Yeah.
When you grow up with a father who's a master at something and they're kind of bringing you up in their footsteps, there can be a lot of pressure. Did you ever face moments where you're like, what are we doing? Why am I in martial arts? Did you ever have those moments where you thought I should be an engineer?
Yeah, no, actually, here's the funny thing. When I was younger, I actually wanted to be a pilot. I wanted to fly airplanes, but I'm colorblind. And so if you're colorblind, you can't really be a pilot because, is that a red light or an orange light? So that got dashed rather rapidly. I wanted to be a pilot and an astronaut, and then I was colorblind. So
both out.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm out.
Hard
right
pass,
there.
Yeah.
And, you know, working with family, it's the best of times and it's the worst of times for those people that work with their family. When it's good, it's great. And when it's bad, the funny part is when it's bad, it's never something that you did at the business. It's something I did when I was 8 years old.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I remember being 24 years old. My dad would bring up something. Yeah, well, when you were, I used to clean your diaper. I'm like, Dad, okay, it was 2.
My fault.
Yeah, I know. And I'm trying to help you with the business. But so, yeah, that's very challenging is working with family. It's got its ups and downs.
Yes. I want to come back because I want to make sure we get this in as well. I want to come back to martial arts and the business of that. How do you all of a sudden end up in Hollywood, acting, film? How's that detour happen?
So I will tell you, I had 2 heroes as a young child. One was my dad. To me, he was the Michelangelo of martial arts. He literally created something out of nothing. So I'm going to tell you a fun fact. Red Dragon Karate is a mixed martial arts style. My dad was doing that in the 1960s. I could throw a rock from where we're sitting and hit a mixed martial arts studio right now.
Yeah.
So our company is widely considered one of the first mixed martial arts styles in America to be done as a business and a system. So everybody that has a mixed martial arts school, I always like to look at them and smile and say, you're welcome. All right. That's my little shameless plug for the moment. But so my dad was my hero. I just watched, like I said, a front row seat of everything he was doing and the stories that go along with it. My other one was Bruce Lee. I was a big fan of Bruce Lee when I was a kid, and I would watch him and go, man, that guy is amazing. I'd like to try and do that as well. So I really looked up to him as he was the first guy I ever saw do martial arts in movies and TV shows. And it was something I always wanted to do. So fast forward, I go out on the pro tour. There's a pro competition tour called the North American Sport Karate Association, which has a series of tournaments around the country. And I got bit by the competition bug. I wanted to compete and become a national champion. And again, not giving up. Yeah. My first 3 years on the tour, I got killed. I was terrible. I was in the local tournament circuit. I was jamming. I was like, I'd win first place. Like, yeah, I'm going to go national. Man, my first 3 years, I got destroyed. I don't think I got anything higher than a 3rd place. So I went from winning grand champions locally to 3rd, 4th, 5th place on the pro tour.
I love that you call that being destroyed. I'm like, 3rd place nationally.
I got one 3rd place the entire year, 12 events. Okay. So I went from winning local to like barely making a 3rd place.
Right.
But I learned a lot, right? I was watching the top guys and the top girls going, wow, man, they're so good. They're so good. And I would talk to them and get their advice. And how did you do this? What are you doing? What's your training thing? I hired some of the best guys in the country because they would do private lessons because I wanted to develop that skill. So the first 3 years, wipeout. Now I could have given up and been like, I'm not going to be a pro. but I kept going and I kept persevering. So I spent 10 years on the pro tour. The last 4 years, I was the #1 competitor in the country.
Wow.
So it took me all of that time to push through and do it.
Wow.
So to your question, in my back of my head, I always wanted to do movies and TV shows. In Atlanta, the tournament called the Battle of Atlanta, I'd won the overall championship there. In the crowd, there were producers for a TV show. And they came up to me and a couple other guys that had won, and they said, hey, we're going to do a TV show about martial arts. Would you like to be in it? And of course, I'm like, yes, please. We'll do that. And then it happened a couple times on the tour before, but nothing really ever manifested. And we didn't hear from them for like 6 months. And then all of a sudden I get a phone call that says, hey, we're going to shoot the pilot. You're going to Universal Studios in Florida. Get ready to get on a plane. Wow. And that TV show ended up becoming WMAC Masters. Along that time, I had done smaller stuff, like movies called Black Eagle and Revenge of the Ninja, little bit parts. And again, cutting my teeth. I was doing background. I was a background dancer in a Mickey Rourke whiskey commercial. Like, I took a whole bunch of like not good jobs, again, to get the experience, to learn what it's like to be on the set. And here's the thing in Hollywood. It's something I learned very early on. It's not who you know. It's who knows you.
And do they like you?
And and are you an asshole on the set? Right? That's the thing, which again, in the martial arts, my dad always taught me, be respectful, be kind. And as I started to get into the business, he was like, when you're on a movie set or on a set for a TV show, make sure when they tell you what to do, you look at them and you say, yes, sir. When you have $1 million in the bank, look at them and say, yes, sir. But do you think we could try it like this? So it was great advice that my dad gave me to be kind and respectful, because they remember that, and the people who are production assistants today are producers and directors tomorrow. The people who are story writers today are directors and executive producers. So everyone's moving up there where they want to be. And so if you're an idiot to people that you think are beneath you on a set because you're a black belt or you've got this ego, then that's just not going to do you well. So I'd done some small stuff in like because of the tournaments when the original Karate Kid, I was in that movie because they filmed that at a real martial arts tournament. They wanted to give it an authentic feel. So if you look really close and don't blink, you'll see me for like 1 second in the original Karate Kid
because
film.
You were participating in the real tournament?
In the real tournament,
wow.
yeah. We were doing some of the background fighting in there, which was really cool. Yeah, it was a blast.
There are tournaments going on and they're filming the movie.
Yeah.
Correct.
Wow.
Now we got to go back and watch it again. We watched that a lot of times.
So I got the part for WMAC Masters, and just a couple months prior to that, there were auditions for Mortal Kombat. And I was a big fan of the game, right? My two favorite characters were Raiden and Scorpion. Now it's flipped. But,
yeah, it has to be, right?
I was a big fan of the game. And so they were auditioning for background fighters. Again, I did background in Karate Kid. I'm like, I'm a background guy. And we got there to go to these auditions. My agent sent me, and they just wanted, again, Larry Kasanoff, the producer, he wanted to be as authentic as possible. So he wanted to bring real martial artists into the film to give it that video game vibe, right? Because other video game movies had come out and they had bombed. Street Fighter didn't do well. Double Dragon didn't do well. So Mortal Kombat, nobody really had any expectations for it, but Larry kind of had a master plan going on behind it. So I go to the audition, there's 100 guys there. Wow. 100 guys. And they have it set up. The thing that benefited most, it was set up like a martial arts tournament. It was a big square area.
Did you guys get in the tournament to see who wins?
It was a big square area, and there were 3 guys sitting in chairs who I had no idea who they were. They ended up being another producer and writer and director. And they said, just come up and show us your stuff. Now I'm watching, I'm like, oh man, that guy's good. That guy's good. So I'm thinking I need to do something that's going to stand out so that I can get into this. I'd love to be in this movie. I've never been in a major Hollywood film before. So I'm going through my routine, and I realize as I'm looking, I see the guy sitting in the chair, and I realize I'm at the top of my game. I can make it over them. I can clear them. So I do a couple moves, and I run towards them. I do a jumping side kick over the top of them. Okay. Now the look on their face is the look on your face right now. I was like, I remember slow motion. I remember seeing him go like this. I land on the other side of him. I do a couple moves, and I like do a diving roll back over. Boom. Finish my routine. That night I get a phone call. We want you to come back. And I'm like, yes, it worked. Now the group goes down. It's maybe 30.
And you're still thinking background.
I was still thinking background,
yeah,
100%.
We're still in background mode
by the way, when we
point.
got there, the first thing they said, all the roles are cast. We just need background fighters for a couple of scenes in the movies.
Wow.
We just want to make sure you guys are good, blah, blah, blah. 30 guys. I do some other stuff. I get a call that night. We want you to come back. Now I come back the third time. There are 3 guys. There's me and 2 other guys. We're standing there. They have a big Panavision movie camera, bunch of people behind the camera, no idea who they are. And they're filming us. We're just standing there, they're filming us. And I look at the other guys. I'm like, do you know what's going on? They're like, we have no idea. I go, okay. So a guy walks over to us and goes, all right, guys, would you mind taking off your shirt? Now, I'm nervous. I'm new. I'm scared.
You're sweating.
And I'm a little bit of a smart ass, okay? In case you haven't figured that out. So I look at him and I go, listen, if it'll help me get in the movie, I'll go back to your trailer. See you laugh, which was the response I was hoping for. This guy's face, deadpan.
Oh, jeez.
Didn't blink, didn't smile, nothing. And I go, whatever this is, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, I'm toast.
Yeah.
So we take off our shirts and I'm standing there and of course I was at the top of my game. So I'm in really good shape and I'm like, I'm flexing, but I'm trying not to flex, trying to look normal. I look to my left, the guy's got a little bit of a pot belly. I look to my right, the guy's in pretty good shape and they're filming us, just filming us, standing there. They go into like a little mini football huddle behind the camera and the guy who came over and asked me to take off my shirt shakes my hand and goes, welcome to Mortal Kombat. You're going to be Scorpion.
No kidding.
Up to that moment, I had no idea
Oh my gosh.
of what we were doing. And the guy who said that originally ended up being the director was Paul Anderson.
Oh my
Wow.
goodness. And you're like, and no trailer. This is
Yeah,
great.
I'll go to your trailer. That's great. So that's how I ended up in the
Background,
Mortal Kombat.
amazing.
boom, Scorpion.
Ah.
How was that transition?
That was-
Did you have to?
So again, I told you that, and I apologize. It was such a long story, but that's where preparation meets opportunity, right? I've been preparing for that moment my whole life. I finally got the opportunity. I didn't know what it was for, but the talent and perseverance that I developed earlier in my life is what helped carry me through in that moment.
So see, this is a question I have been wanting to ask you because you've been talking about like perseverance
Mm-hmm.
and keep pushing through and don't give up a lot. And it's interesting because we work with entrepreneurs in all different professions and industries all over the planet. And a lot of times we hear this, well, I'm doing all the things. I'm still doing it. I'm still pushing. I'm still going, but they're not successful because sometimes it's just not enough to persevere. There has to be like that magic sauce in there as well that allows you to go for 10 years and then the last 4 be number 1.
Right.
So what do you think that extra piece is on top of the perseverance that makes the difference? Because there's got to be
So
something.
even to
I'll
that
tell you what
point.
it is.
Yeah.
It's being curious, right? I wanted to know why the guys and girls that were winning on the tour were
Yeah.
winning. And I went up to them and I asked them, what is your practice routine like? And it was completely different than mine. Like
Yeah.
I thought I was doing the right things. Wasn't
Love
even
that.
close. And then I said, hey, do you teach privates? Yes, we do. Cool. So now I want to learn from the people that are doing better than me.
Yeah.
Which bring this full circle, which is why having a coach, having a mastermind makes so much sense for people that are struggling, even though they're persevering.
Yeah.
They just haven't figured it out. Well, you get with somebody who's been there,
Yeah.
who's done that, who's now succeeding, and you learn from that success. And then you'll make it your own. Like I didn't copy the men and women that I learned from on the tour. I didn't copy them, but I took what they gave me and made it my own
Yeah.
and created my own basic performance out of those.
Yeah.
What about
Oh, I
the
love
other
that.
2 at Mortal Kombat? Do you happen to know who they were?
I
where
don't.
They are?
To
they're
this day, I don't
So-
remember. I didn't know them at the time.
Poor
And,
Potbelly.
well to that. Well, so other than Potbelly, so the other guy, right? You were watching them and you're like, oh, that guy's good. That guy's got skills. What do you think then? There's 3 of you, and,
Yeah.
and you said you just took your shirts off and they panned the cameras around.
They were apparently looking for a certain type of
Yeah.
look.
Yeah,
I think
sure.
it was my sexy eyebrows.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
the Italian brows.
Yeah, that's it. The Italian brows.
But in the sort of the intangible there, what do you think it was? Because to that point, like they had prepared, right?
Right.
So I mean, obviously they weren't like
They made it to the
Yeah.
last 3. I mean, there was obviously
so they had
preparation
skills.
for them. Yeah.
They had preparation. They were, other than Potbelly, they were probably working out and they were watching their
Well,
nutrition.
I'm sure he was working out too. It's
Yeah.
maybe not his
Maybe
day
not,
to take off the shirt.
But what do you think then was that intangible? What was the difference? Why you? Other than the eyebrows.
Yeah.
Like,
You-
what's that thing that all of a sudden just tipped it for you?
That's a great question. And I honestly don't have the answer to it. I mean, you'd have to get Larry Kazanoff on
There you go.
on the show and say why
What?
did you pick him?
Maybe it was that you were trying to be a smart ass and he was like,
Maybe.
I like that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like
maybe,
that
I don't
guy.
know.
This could be fun.
I think it has a lot to do with our energy.
Right.
Right. The energy that we bring, that's something that somebody can feel, not necessarily something that they could see. And so even in an interaction, and then they were like, all right, let's have these guys take their shirts off. Again, energy. Like were you like,
We say that
oh,
all the time. The highest energy wins.
yes,
right.
the highest
Yeah.
energy always wins. It really doesn't matter what you say or what you did. They can feed off of that. then how do you parlay that? So now you luckily make it in. You're like, preparation meets opportunity.
Right.
So many people, preparation meets opportunity. Half of them, they don't know to step through that door. The other half of them, they step through that door. Well, 49 out of 50, they step through that door, but that's it. They do that one thing and then that's it. And they look back and they're like, remember that time? They never are able to build on it. It's that 1% of people who then use that as a springboard. Talk to us about how you parlayed that into your success today.
Well, that goes back to what I said earlier. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. So the people that I met on that set went on and did other things. The fight coordinator, Pat Johnson, for example, went on and did Batman and Robin with George Clooney, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Uma Thurman. And because we worked so well together on that, he's like, I think you can double for George Clooney. And so he brought me in to meet Joel Schumacher, who was the director of that film. And the best part was I didn't have to do anything except stand there. And he came up to me and he grabbed my chin. He goes, your chin is just like George. You're fabulous.
I love it.
And I'm like, you don't want to see me do anything? He goes, no, Pat recommended you. And I'm like, great. So
That's
apparently
amazing.
George Clooney and I have the exact same chin. We are the exact same height.
Perfect.
And so it all worked out and I got a chance to do that. And then I met someone on the Batman set who was doing another movie after that called Blade with Wesley Snipes.
Yep.
So I got a chance to work on that. So again, the people that I met along the way, that I was being kind and respectful and giving my best effort on the set too, not trying to be an egotistical maniac. They remember that, and making a movie or TV show, it's a team. You want people around you that you enjoy working with that are going to help you get that finished product be as good as it can be.
Absolutely.
So they don't really have any time for that animosity or that ego on a set.
So tell us now, where are you in this season of your life?
Where should I begin? Right now, I'm running a mastermind for martial arts school owners called Business Combat with a K, tongue-in-cheek reference to Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
Don't sue me, Warner.
We said tongue in cheek,
Yeah, it's
not totally the
tongue-in-cheek.
same. Okay, it's not the same.
tongue-in-cheek. But that's for martial arts school owners around the country that want to basically figure out how they can be successful. Again, we've got 17 locations here in Southern California.
Yep.
We've been doing this for 60 years. Most martial arts schools are struggling. And the one reason I wanted to start a mastermind is because I'm tired of seeing people who are changing other people's lives struggle in their own life financially.
Yeah.
Right? There's good money to be made in our business if you're doing it ethically and you're truly helping people become better versions of themselves. That's what we do.
Right.
You know, anybody who's been in the martial arts, you've been in the martial arts a long time. And if you've taught for a long time, like I have people that I'll see on the street or I meet and like, they still remember me. And I remember what you taught me and you changed my life. And now to your question, the season of my life, I've been teaching so long. I'm now teaching children of children.
Wow.
I'm on my second generation of, you taught my son and now he's grown up and had a kid and he's bringing his son to you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, I'm old.
It feels good, but not.
Yeah, it's like, that's a double-edged sword right there.
It's like,
You taught my dad.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
what do you think for all of these? Because again, service-based businesses are really difficult, especially because we struggle with the heart and then the business hand, right?
Yeah.
And it's like we want to change people's lives and give as much as we can, but we also need to be sound business owners.
Correct.
So what do you think that for a lot of these martial arts studios, what do they struggle with most that you see?
Paying the rent,
Just
doing
making ends
payroll,
meet? Yeah.
utilities, bills, staffing, percentages of just running KPIs.
Admin and all the,
all the
behind
admin
scenes.
stuff. There's so many men and women, they get into it. Listen, they're good in the martial arts
Yeah.
and they enjoy teaching. The myth is, I'm a black belt, I'm a good teacher, I'm going to hang up my shingle out front and people are going to storm through my door. That happened for a very limited time when the first Karate Kid movie came out. Like when Karate Kid came out, we had lines of people out our door wanting to sign up for martial arts. It was such a shot in the
Amazing.
arm for the martial arts industry, right? The second movie came out, same thing happened. Those times are gone. I mean, Cobra Kai's kind of got a resurgence and it's helpful to the business itself, but it's not like back in those early 80 days. That was the heyday of anybody could open a martial arts school. Now you've got to be systematic. You have to have a smart approach to it. You've got to have your location right, the look, the feel, the smell. There's so much that goes into it that if you haven't gone to business school, you just don't know.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating too because there's so much to the business of a martial arts studio.
Right.
A lot of the attraction is for the kids.
Mm-hmm.
The parents are like, oh, I want to put my kids in martial arts. So now we're selling the parent. but the kid is consuming
The receiver. Yeah.
consuming the experience of it. We have a good friend that also helps martial arts studios, and he was telling me that, and I think this is applicable to every service provider. He was like, the danger in that is that the parents have control over whether or not the child comes to the studio. And what happens is one day the child's like, oh, but do we have to go? And then right then the parent has to make a decision, right? I'm taking you or not. And if they choose not to, the parent gets this brief glimpse of what life could look like without my commitment to taking my kid to classes 3 times a week. And that begins that disenrollment process, right? And we have to have ways to bring them in. I think that's a great example, though. If I'm an instructor and I'm passionate about martial arts, I'm completely disconnected from them. I'm like, why would they not want to come? This is so great. This is the greatest place on earth. Yeah. How do we help make that transition other than just the school of hard knocks and the reality of the rent check bounce? How can we shorten that gap so that people that are passionate about martial arts or whatever the services that they provide understand that there is a gap between this passion and running a successful business?
Well, I'm going to give you a slightly different perspective. You said parents are in charge of their kids. From my point of view, and we've got thousands of people in our company, I see too many kids that are in charge of their parents. There are so many parents, unfortunately, today that want to be their kid's friend and not their parent. Now, I have 2 kids. Parenting is a job. Yeah. And as an adult, we know what's best for our kids, not the other way around. The thing I tell parents, to your question, is quitting is a habit. And when they say my child wants to quit, I go, has he played another sport? Yeah, he was in baseball. What happened? He quit. Was he in soccer? What happened? He quit. So you understand that quitting is a habit. If you continue to let him quit, what are you going to do when he says he wants to stop going to school?
Right.
Oh, well, really? You won't? Because you're letting him do it now. We ask them the yes questions. Do you believe in the value of what we're trying to teach your child? Because our core values align with what most parents want for their kids. Cooperation, discipline, respect, focus. Having a good overall general attitude. Do you believe in those things? Yes. Cool. So then the couple of little tricks that we do are, 1, make the child come to me and tell me he wants to quit. They'll never do that. Right. They're going to whine to mommy because kids are like velociraptors, right? Yeah. They're going to test the fence to see what they can get away with. But when they have to go talk to sensei, that conversation doesn't happen. Yes. And the second part of that is we'll say, listen, okay, I get it. He wants to quit. Here, we have stripe testing coming up at the end of the month. Let's have him go to stripe testing. When he gets the stripes on his belt, let's ask him again if he wants to quit. Because what we know is when a kid gets promoted or wins something, the last thing they want to do is quit. They're remotivated. And that's why we have the different color belts. That's why we put the stripes on the belt. Those are the carrots to pull them along the path. I'm not signing a child up to have them make white belt. My goal is to get them to black belt. Now that's a 4, 5, or 6 year process depending on the child. And that takes time and that takes commitment. P.S. to a parent, I say, you know what else looks good on a college resume? Red Dragon black belt. Because what does that tell an admission officer? Discipline, focus, commitment, all things they're looking for when they have to decide between candidate A and candidate B who's getting into their school. It looks really good on a resume.
Yeah. No wonder you have a mastermind.
Yeah. So this is stuff there. But see, this is things that and P.S. I learned all this the hard way.
Yeah, of course.
All of it. And like I said, our 60 years, we break a lot of eggs.
Yeah.
We've made all the mistakes so that other school owners don't necessarily have to. And like I said, we had 17. Our goal right now is to get to 25. We're on track to do that probably in the next 36 to 48 months.
Awesome.
So we're going to continue to grow and make impacts in our community as well.
I love it.
How can people find out more about Chris, Red Dragon, and the mastermind? How can people get plugged in is it just martial arts? Is that a requirement?
No.
Anybody.
And so again, to service businesses.
Okay. Yep.
I'll give a plug to my site here in a minute, but I just wanted to get back to service business. Service-based businesses, whether it's yoga, whether it's a gym, fitness, what's the dance, Zumba, or martial arts, are all the same in that we're providing a service to the community that's going to help them with their health, right? Health and wellness. So their kids avoid getting sick and things like that. But in the service-based business space, the gap, to your point earlier, is primarily in martial arts, not so much in the fitness space. There's ego. And a lot of guys, because we have ego, women, you're so much better than us.
Yeah, we don't have ego at all. Never.
You do, but listen, between the species, women are by far the better and more virtuous people on the planet. I believe that wholeheartedly. But in the martial arts, there's a ton of ego. right?
Yeah.
And I've got a black belt. I'm God's gift to the martial arts world. No, you're not. There's another martial arts school right there. There's another one right there. There's a gym right there. There's competition everywhere. So if you're not providing the best service and the best experience, then they're just going to go elsewhere. And for our company, we have a saying, if you haven't taught your best class, you've taught your last class, right? Because people don't just quit. It's a systemized process of a little cut here and a little cut there. That class wasn't that good. You were rude to me when I came in. You didn't answer the phone. Like, it's little things over time that add up. And that's what we teach people to look out for and to be aware of.
I love it. Well, how can they find you? How can they connect with you?
I'm literally the easiest guy to find anywhere. All you have to do is good luck spelling my name, but just plug it into any social media thing and you'll find me. But businesscombat.com, combat with a K, is you'll find all the stuff about our mastermind. RedDragonKarate.com is the wonderful world of Red Dragon, and ChrisCasamassa.com. If you're a producer looking for a new star, I'm your guy. No, it's funny though. I do have 2 movie projects that we're working on that should hopefully get filmed this year and maybe be out early next year.
Fantastic.
So I still continue to do that, and I've written 3 books on bully
books, right?
on bully
Okay.
prevention.
Yeah.
My newest one out is called The Adventures of Backpack Billy.
Aw.
It's a straight for kids book on bully prevention. It's about
Love
this
that.
young kid Billy who's getting bullied at school, and one day a magical dragon, just happens to be red, not a coincidence, comes to his room and takes him on an adventure and teaches him the 5 virtues of becoming bully proof.
Wow.
Type
I
thing.
love
So
that.
it's right for kids. But all 3 of my bully proof books have been fortunately #1 bestsellers. So that's my side mission is I want to help 1 million kids become bully proof and fit.
Over
I
a
travel
Over a million.
Yours
over
would
a
say
Stop at
over
a million.
Yeah, why stop?
well,
over
first
a
goal is a
million
million. Here's why. I travel the country and I teach at public schools, private schools, martial arts schools, any place that I can get in, a bully prevention clinic for kids. It's a 90-minute workshop that I do for them. They get a cool little ribbon at the end of it. Currently, as of today, I've taught a little over 81,000 kids
Wow.
this bully prevention clinic. It's going to be hard to get to 1 million, but I'm not going to give up on
But
it.
you can get to 1 million by teaching other people to teach the class.
That's
the,
the
impact
next
is the
part that
same.
I'm working
Yeah.
on. I'm teaching people how to do the class that I do.
Yeah.
That's why I'm writing the books to get the message out as well.
That's great.
So that's kind of my little side mission, passion, and purpose right now is to help wipe out bullying across the world.
Absolutely.
it.
We'll start with
Love
America
causes.
and then try to hit the world.
Yeah.
Great cause. I want to make sure that you, I mean, right here on the podcast, like I'd love to do more stuff with you. I love what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I could talk your ear
super
off about this. I'm real
amazing.
passionate
Yes.
about it.
It's
So
amazing.
And so I hope that the listeners find value today. But as I always say, in much the same way in your industry, if you just listen to podcasts, watch videos, and you're like, wow, that's cool, absolutely nothing will change in your life. Now what you have to do is build on it, take action. That would be like Chris saying like, oh yeah, there's an audition, but he never went. You actually have to do the things that will bring you closer to your goals. And Chris is an amazing resource. He could serve as a leader, guide, mentor, and help to inspire you there. Look him up all over, chriscasamassa.com. Get plugged in with everything that he's doing because I'm sure that he will bring tremendous value to you. Chris, thanks for being on the podcast.
thank you so much for having me. It's
Thank
been
you.
great.
Super amazing. All right, everybody. That's it for this week. We'll be back again next week. We're going to have to double down. This is going to be very difficult for us to top Chris's episode, but we'll give it a shot. Until then, have a great day.